What is an incel?
Well, it is an online community of overwhelmingly men in their late teens and early 20s, and it stands for involuntary celibate. So it's a group of men that are unhappy and deeply uncomfortable and resentful about the fact that they are unable to build romantic and sexual relationships with women. So they're overwhelmingly heterosexual men, and they congregate in various different online communities. So on 4chan, on 8chan, forums, also another website called Reddit, where there's lots of different forums and groups that you can associate with and have discussions around these issues. And it's basically fosters this very deep sense of resentment and alienation. Many of the men have a narrative about why they feel the way that they do. They are kind of reacting against the recent waves of feminism and the sexual revolution, and they orient and root their own sense of resentment about society in the sense that there's been an absence of traditional roles, and they've been kept out of the sphere of being able to access sexual relationships. So they have a deep sense of entitlement and often nihilism. And so there's different terms that they use. It's very complicated. So one of the terms that they have is red pilling, and that essentially means that they've realized all of these horrendous oppressions within society that affect men. But the other thing that they have is a term called black pilling, and what that means is that there's no hope for them. Absolutely, the end is for them, and therefore the only solution is to enact violence either against them or against others. It's a very nihilistic and depressive community, unfortunately.
And it's not a new online phenomenon, is it? We've seen shootings in America as a result of, from members of this online community, if we can call it that. How has this ideology or kind of theories around red pill, black pill nihilism, how has that been imported into the UK?
So you are right to mention that what has happened is actually, since 2014 alone, there's been at least 8 mass murders from people that have been associated with this particular online subculture, and it isn't anything new. So it has roots, this term incel, from the late 1990s, but actually it really accelerated, particularly at the turn of the 2010s, when we saw a huge explosion of forums like Reddit, of this online subcultures and meme cultures, and all of the different reactions against feminism and things like that. So it isn't necessarily something new, but the way in which they are now turning incredibly violent and increasingly violent in these online communities and spaces and forums is something that is really quite a stark trend, particularly since 2014.
Do you think the pandemic has played a part with lots of people not being able to go out and meet people face to face, and everything they're doing is online? So do you think that has exacerbated the situation here? I think that's a really interesting question. So a lot of research, not too much, but some research has been done on the kind of types of people that are drawn to those communities. A lot of the time, these are introverted men that either live at home or are unemployed, not in education, employment or training, and don't have a sense of purpose or security in their own identity and masculinity. They spend a lot of time online or in gaming forums. So I think that potentially during the pandemic, when there has been an even further sense of isolation, a further sense of alienation and a lack of the kind of social networks and structures that can bring people out of despairing places in their own head, hasn't necessarily been there. So I think there is a possibility that the pandemic has exacerbated it, but it has been something on an upward trajectory even before the pandemic.
And where do they congregate, these incels? I mean, are they on kind of mainstream platforms, or is this more of a kind of dark net, so that kind of, highly encrypted, far less mainstream preserve of the internet? Like, where are they operating?
So it's a mixture. So there is an online platform that many of them do use, and that is Reddit. So that is one that is used by many different people. All different types of groups use that forum in order to have discussions. It has been a particular platform that has tried to stay towards the free speech end, allowing quite on-the-edge conversations to happen there. And they've argued that they've been committed to free speech, but there's been debates about that. But they often use other platforms such as 4chan and 8chan, and these are platforms that have actually been associated with illegal content such as terror activity, hate speech, and things like that. So this is a forum that is allowed, but it's also a forum that has actually been incredibly controversial over the last few years about the types of conversations and the types of content that is being shared.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.